Let's talk about the information encoded in a CodeCity. The CodeCity in front of us represents the gedit system, and we can already see that it is composed of buildings of various colors and dimensions, which are grouped in districts, which are these stacked platforms under the buildings. Every single artifact we see in a CodeCity is a representation of a software entity of the analyzed system. So what do these artifacts actually represent? Due to the interactive nature of the CodeCity visualizations, you can quickly learn about the data behind each city artifact. A very useful part of the CodeCity user interface is the information panel, which is this part over here. An efficient way of screening a CodeCity is to hover the mouse pointer over the city artifacts and look at the information panel, which provides a description of the software entities represented by those city artifacts. Let's put this into practice. First, let's have a closer look at the districts, which are these gray and stacked platforms. By moving the mouse pointer over the bottom district, we learn that it represents a package called org, which is the root package of gedit. We also learn that on the color of the district we map the depth in hierarchy metric, which is 1 in the case of package org. Moving towards the top of the stacked platforms, we see how the shades of grays get lighter and lighter, showing the increasing value of the depth in hierarchy metric. We learned thus that the districts represent the packages of the system and that their structural organization reflects the package hierarchy. What are the buildings then? Let's see what lies behind the tallest building in the city. We learned that this represents a class called parser, defined in package bsh. We also see that the properties of a building reflect the values of a couple of software metrics, and let's take each of them. First, the number of lines of code is mapped on the color. Let's find out more. Parser has over 5,000 lines of code, which is translated into its intense blue color. Looking around in the neighborhood, we discover a building with a less intense blue color, and this is class parser token manager. This class has around 2,000 lines of code, which is less than half of the lines of code of class parser, and this is why the color is not so intense, the blue color. At the other extreme, we can see a class which is completely dark gray with no shade of blue, and this class is parser constants, which has 0 lines of code. At this point we can say that the color ranges between dark gray for a few lines of code and intense blue for many lines of code. The next metric is the number of methods, which is mapped on the height of the building. In the case of class parser, the almost 350 methods are the ones that make this the tallest building in the city. And in case you are not yet convinced it is the tallest, just have a look at the skyline of the city. Next, the number of attributes metric is mapped on both the width and the length of the building, which means on the base size of the building. The base size in the case of the class parser is small due to the fact that it has only 13 attributes. Finally, to help you get a feeling of what the class is actually dealing with, you see a list of the top terms, actually the roots of these terms, which are extracted from the names of the class's attributes and methods. Now, knowing which kind of information is transmitted by the visual properties of the city artifacts, we can also understand what kind of classes lie behind the different building types that we can see in a CodeCity. For instance, we have seen these skyscrapers, which are classes with many methods and few attributes. Then we have the so-called parking lots, because these are classes with few methods and many attributes. Or we have massive buildings, classes with many methods and many attributes, or small houses, which are classes with few methods and few attributes. These were just a couple of the many patterns out there waiting to be discovered. So go exploring.